Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Alok. Good morning, Shipra. Good morning, Mr. Pradeep and Mr. Sudhir. And a very good morning to all the students and teachers who have joined us here. Very pleased to have you with us to discuss such an important topic, that is the role of technology in climate solutions. Because as we are moving towards, especially post pandemic, I think the focus on technology and the digital disruption that the country is facing, that is, absolutely amazing. And the way we have all adapted towards it, that is amazingly, motivating. So we have to see how we can build on technology as a lever and as an instrument or a tool through which we can arrive at climate solutions instead of being slaves of technology and making technology rule us. So just we have to use it for our best, interest. So for that, would love to, request our panelists to, we will start with a quick round of introductions as well, because I can do that actually for the students, but the detailed, background of what you have done, and you have to think more in terms of how a student would relate to you. So you will have to, tell your story, how you grew up as a student and how did you find the career aspiration that you have and what drives you, especially within the space of technology, that we can discuss. So, students, I'll be giving a brief introduction to our esteemed speakers today. So, we have Ms. Shipra Mishra. She is from DRIIV, and that is a special organization commissioned under the Principal Scientific Advisor of India. Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, and she is the CEO of that, and she is leading this mission forward. And this is primarily focused on science and technology, which is the clusters all across, and how to develop these clusters for the development of Delhi in particular, right? Then we have Mr. Pradeep Bhargav. He is the global president of IIT Kanpur Alumni Association, and he is also having his organization called Glad Minds, which is into providing solutions for B2B customers. We have Mr. Sudhir Kumar from ISRO, and I'm sure that many of you are very excited about ISRO, and many of you still, aspire to do something in the space science. And we have Sudhir ji, he's from ISRO, and he's the director CBPO at ISRO. We have Mr. Alok Talekar, who is representing Google, which is one of the most, I would say, most aspired organizations to work for anybody who is in the space of technology. So very warm welcome to all the speakers once again. And now we could, pass the baton to you. And please spend some time talking about yourself, relating your childhood and your current role. Thank you. Shipra, you may want to go first.
Thank you, Gayatri. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be, with you, and especially, young minds. So I have a 7-year-old, and if I were to tell him that I had somebody from ISRO on the same panel as I, so he would go crazy with excitement. He's crazy about space science. So my background is, I'm an engineer from IIT Kanpur, and when I was growing up, so somebody, as yesterday suggested, that, 30 years ago, we did not have to think separately about sustainability and climate, because in our culture, and in most cultures, going back those many years, people had an inherent understanding and they valued the environment. So traditional practices themselves inculcated, these beliefs and cherished the environment that much. It's just that when the divide has grown so much, right? So, the move to urbanization, etc. So we have become slaves to technology, as you suggested, Gayatri. And now the question for our younger generation is to how to, reverse that trend and use technology in a context, right? In the context of solving societal problems and solving environmental problems. So, with that background and, career-wise, I had a, financial services career back in the UK and spent around 16, 17 years there, working in a very, very, heavily, industrial kind of environment. And then when I came back, a couple of years ago, back to India and started my own, organization, then, kind of reconnected with my roots and then realize that, today's generation, how far removed they are from, the, cultural aspects that we grew up in, that value of the environment. So with the intention of, reconnecting with my roots and giving back to the country and setting the direction for the country more towards a sustainable technological progress, where, we become, a more flourishing and a developed nation, and do more, prosper more, but not at the expense of the environment. We have to include that as a central point of our economic development, and which is what you said. This initiative, Drive, has been set up by the principal scientific advisor to the government of India. So the idea is to build an umbrella organization that brings together all these, high-profile technological institutes like IIT Delhi, AIIMS, TERI, and all these premier institutes that are already in, in and around Delhi, and use the expertise that we already have to solve these sustainability challenges that we have in and around Delhi. So the themes that we are currently working on relate to solving the huge problem of solid waste management in and around Delhi, and a huge problem of water security. So I remember, when I was growing up, there was no dearth of water. So, water scarcity was an unheard of term, right? And now, living in Gurgaon, water security has become such an issue. We don't get regular water supply in summer. So how to conserve, how to, have technologies to purify more water and ensure water, availability for future generations going forwards. Air pollution is such a huge problem. So, right now, schools, up till yesterday, schools were closed because of air pollution. So how do we solve this problem on a sustainable basis? So these kind of problems, and mobility, so transportation is a huge problem. And, according to government policies, e-mobility, needs to be encouraged. So how do we develop systems and infrastructure to sustain that? So these are some of the challenges that we are trying to solve as a cluster. So I'll take a pause here.
Yeah, sure. Pradeep, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is to run through the childhood, that we spent and we lived. So the childhood we spent was, you spend time walking, you spend time cycling, you spend time going to the farm, you spend time climbing a tree, plucking fruit directly from the tree and eating. So that was the childhood that we remember. And we also know that today the kids are not able to do all that, right? So, especially in the bigger cities. So if you take a bike, it is just within the, apartment complex. And very few will venture out on the main road. Very few where people would, cycle down from Lucknow to Kanpur, for example. So the way the life was quite different. And what we believe is an aspiration seems to be a problem today. So aspiration was to go in a car, right? Aspiration was to take a flight. So all these were aspirations at that time for most of the people around us. And having a car itself was an aspiration for many. So this used to be the childhood, and they didn't seem to be an issue. So drinking water, for example. So you go to the tap and drink water. So some people would say, oh, but it should be filtered. And we say, what's a filter, right? So there was nothing called filter at that time, and we directly drink from the tap, or you directly use the hand pump and just drink water. So nobody would question it is good water or a bad water. And even I remember, going in the trains, and you jump out of the train and go to the tap to drink water there. So it was all acceptable. There was no real issue of drinking that water, and people say, okay, your stomach will go upset and you eat anything which you feel like. But it seems to have changed during the many years that have gone. And even now, if I go back to a hand pump and water, so one, it will not be just 10 feet away. it may need a pump to draw that water up. And as we go down in the water table, the clean water which was there very close to the surface is no longer that clean. Because as we go down, certain other minerals start coming in. There could be chromium, there could be arsenic, there could be many other minerals that come in, and they are not really good for the body. So if I go to the village and people say, okay, but did you filter it? And they still say, why filter? I've been drinking it for the last 30 years. So they are not able to realize the change that is happening under their feet. So things below their feet are changing. And so this is village, that could be town, and it could be city. And we talked in Bangalore, for example, and we tell, water is disappearing below their feet, and people don't believe it. But when you start digging and when you buy a house and you say, okay, if water is not coming from water comes from Kaveri River. If it's not coming from Kaveri River, where it's coming, he said, I'll dig a bore well. And then you start digging the bore well, it's not at 100 feet, it's not at 200 feet, it goes up to 1,000 feet or 1,100 feet, which means we are going deep down in the earth to just get the water. And that is what is changing the equation as we see, just if I talk about water alone, starting from, what we did in childhood, what happened subsequently, and now, as Shipra also mentioned, shortage of water, because there is no water below, where will you get it? So it is just looking at one aspect that we are talking, and we will talk more as we talk about technology, but just to say, how things change as we grow up and what is now.
Sure. Alok, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, students. And, thank you, Gayatri, for this opportunity to interact with students. It's so lovely. So I grew up in India, but for the last 12-ish years, I was in the US, and I saw such a stark difference between sort of lifestyle there and here. And coming back, it's been about 6 months, and I still find drastic changes between the time that I was away. And what I'm realizing is the Western lifestyle that we all aspire to is problematic. It's like deeply problematic because people live in excess. Like growing up in my childhood, my parents' car was the only car that we had, and everybody shared the car. We never had a thought that every person in the family should have their own car. Going on vacation, we never thought all of us could fly to another country or another city. Wherever the car took you is how you went. And so all of us have benefited from technological change that has happened to our lives. No matter where you or your friends, your family members are, you can communicate with each other very easily. People who were living in squalor are now able to afford houses. And all of us are having modern conveniences, like having access to energy. And all of these things are good. It improves your quality of life. People live a healthier lifestyle, but it comes at a cost. So for example, most of the energy today in India is from coal power plants. Growing up, I had, blue skies year round. There's many months together where we don't see blue skies. And so we have a significant developmental deficit that we are paying for using resources that we have today. And the future is probably going to be much greener, where most of our energy will come from better sources. And we'll have sort of less construction compared to what we are doing today. And so our future will be greener, and students are what will make it happen. And so the superheroes of tomorrow are people who will aspire to work on climate and climate-related problems. And we are looking forward to having more people like you working in these areas.
Now we'll come to you, Mr. Sudhir. The most awaited discussion is on ISRO. So please, would you like to share how do you connect with? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think most of these stories were repeating in nature, as Dr. Pradeep was explaining. I don't want to repeat the same thing. The kids only have to understand. Now the question is, we create the mess and we try to resolve the mess. Better avoid creating mess. Probably the students or children would be the ambassadors even to tell their own parents not to create a mess. See, first is we should understand how the mess is being created. That probably the right choice for the students to avoid. Let us say you are throwing. See, Shipra was telling waste management. If you create a waste, ultimately there is a chance for let us say that mosquito breeding or cockroach breeding or bats breeding or what things. PS office is doing really amazing job. I do not know. I never had any interaction with the Shipra.
Um,
Whereas
I think there is some
in
network issue at your end. There is we're not
Bangalore
able to hear
cluster,
you
One Health,
clearly.
we are moving it out. And technology, so far, the conventional knowledge, experience of the elders, use problem, let's say around you, water is getting depleted, as Dr. Pradeep was telling. But on the other hand, water sewage is another problem. Water, let's say even a soil moisture, because of the technologies, that creates a problem for so many unhealthy situations. Of course, the plastics and such kind of things, throwing of the severe of the citizens. We clean our houses, but put the entire garbage onto the. I am able to hear you properly. I am able to, because the Zoom, no, normally governments would be the reason. Okay, I think is right now. I'm able. Can anybody confirm?
It's breaking in between the voice.
It's okay. Shall I continue?
Is everyone able to hear him now? I was seeing the comments and I was also not able to hear you clearly in between. So I think this is okay. Should be fine now. Great. So now coming to the main question that,
Is it okay? Is it okay?
yes, I think there is a lag. Sudhir, you may actually.
You want me to continue or
you can reconnect. I think that will help.
The next session?
I think you can reconnect. Are you able to hear us?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, try rejoining, then it will be sorted, I guess. Okay, so while Sudhir is connecting again, just wanted to, get to the main important point, that is about climate solutions. When it comes to climate solutions, the kind of interventions we can have in terms of technology, there are numerous interventions that can be possible, and one of the most important one is that of sensing. Right, the moment we are able to sense the data, we are able to measure it, and once we start measuring something, we are able to manage it. So that is one area that technology has been able to help us. The second level is the communication, because through technology, like look at the webinar and the event we are having through India MUN, through communication, we are able to connect with so many people at the same time. So communication is another area where technology has significantly improved and acted as a great boon for the civilization. There are many such intersections. So these are some of the examples that are known to the wider audience, and I'm sure that the students are also aware of these two examples and many more. Would like to understand from experts like you that what are the levers that you feel should be detriment when it comes to creating climate solutions, if students want to think in that direction. Shipra, you may want to go.
So, Gayatri, I would like to, highlight the fact that it's not just digital technology per se that's helpful. Let's not forget the, proper good old research-based development as well. Right?
Yeah.
So the way Drive is approaching all these issues, for example, let's start with solid waste management, right? So what are the various, multiple sources of, solid waste? So plastic, as you know, is a huge problem, right? So what can we do about plastic? Obviously, it takes years and years to degrade. Can we convert that into fuel? Right. So goes back to good old chemical engineering. So how to, to use gasification to convert plastic into fuel, right? Then e-waste. E-waste is a huge problem, right? So digitization on the one hand is helping us connect, but then, there's so much e-waste being generated, right? We saw in the recent, Tokyo Olympics, all the medals, that were won by the players, they were made from precious metals extracted from e-waste, right? So that metal extraction technology, is a good tool to use. So we're also working on that. Then in terms of biomass, right? So in Delhi especially, there's a huge problem of burning of biomass in the farms, right? For lack of, proper incentives for the farmers. So how can we, commercially utilize that biomass so that, the incentive is there for the farmers to preserve it rather than burn it and create the problem of air pollution, right? So conversion of that biomass into biofuel and other value-added products, like coming up with products that absorb sound, absorb shock, right? And therefore can be used in cars and for insulation, etc. So this is the level at which we need to think. And obviously, going back to, you said, you were talking about sensors. So again, in order to manage air pollution, we also need to monitor it first, right? So how to come up with low cost sensors? So right now the sensors that are deployed are very, very expensive. So how to indigenously produce those, sensors which are low cost, affordable, and they therefore can be installed everywhere. Right. So these are some of the ways in which we can leverage technology. Of course, there's no dearth to it. Then, AI ML also, so how to use AI ML technology in identifying. So right now we are using, deploying AI ML in healthcare. So like, what are the fallouts of, pollution and how it is impacting, right? And how we can, target and come up with proper solutions, in overall healthcare. So these are, just, some of the examples that we can leverage technology. But also at this point, I would like to add, it is not, purely technology per se. When students are thinking about technology, they also have to think about the context, as I mentioned previously. Then multidisciplinary approach is very, very important, right? So for example, if you go back to the question of conversion of plastic into fuel, right? It's not just chemical engineering that you're adopting, right? You have to think from a holistic perspective. So what is the value chain? Right? How will you source all that plastic and how will you think at scale, right? So what is the supply chain you're going to set to ensure all that waste and single-use plastic gets collected and fed into whatever unit that is, using to process it, right? So, and, what are the other, aspects you will engage to, create awareness amongst the masses, not to create that level of waste, right? How are you going to involve industries and corporates to ensure that the technology you have created in-house at pilot scale gets, scaled up at industrial level, and, people start using it, on a national scale? So these are some of the questions that, our young audience need to keep in mind on how to use technology in a context that creates a meaningful impact.
Absolutely. And very rightly said, when you mentioned single-use plastics, I was reminded of one experiment that we did about, almost a decade back. That was on the replacement of plastics with an alternative material, which was using corn polymer. So that was the product being used. So that was developed in a way that it created something exactly similar as plastics, but it was biodegradable. So while you can use it for all the practical purposes that the plastic bags are used for, but then you can just dump it and it will degrade within a span of, so 30 days to 60 days. So this is something which is already in development. And similarly, there are examples of artificial photosynthesis where the equation of the photosynthesis, where we see the plants consume carbon dioxide and release oxygen. The similar paints are being developed through using nanotechnology, where buildings can be painted with those green walls, and in turn, buildings will be consuming carbon dioxide. So they become carbon sinks and they produce oxygen in return. So, I mean, these are some of the areas which I found very fascinating. I'm sharing that for the benefit of the larger audience here, because these are just the this is food for thought for you to think in terms of how you can develop on some of these areas that are of interest to you. You can of course not touch upon every single thing, but any area that is close to your heart. Somebody might be interested in e-waste, somebody might be interested in say water. So there are areas that you can choose for yourself and look at technologies that you would be interested to explore more. So with that, would like to come back to you, Sudhir. I hope your network is better now. Hello? I don't think so. Okay, so Pradeep, I think next to you.
Yeah, so I think the topic being the role of technology in climate. And it so happens that technology was the cause of creating the issue. So if it was, then for me, maximum answer comes that you have to alter what we did and do it probably in a different way. So if you look at what needs to be seen, where impact is happening, and where is it that we look forward to? So we have the earth, and there is place above the earth, which has to be impacted, and something which happens on the surface of the earth, and something which happens below the surface of the earth. So these are all three areas if we look at, and then we say, okay, what is happening on the surface of the earth? So we have created a number of, gadgets and technologies around probably to make ourselves feel better, but it looks like it is for the short term. So we put, and Google is here, a lot of data centers, and we look at them, what specific things are happening. But we also look at, how the energy itself is created, and how the transportation happens, and how the consumption of energy happens. And that is all happening on the surface of the earth, largely. So you have industry or a factory coming up, you have home and larger buildings are coming up, you have multiple types of transportation that came up, right? You have, if the power is not available, we put genset, and all these were seen sign of progress. And now we say, okay, we did this, now how we correct it? But first was the awareness, what is to be corrected and whether it's to be corrected. So what I see, one was the awareness itself. And there what Gayatri mentioned was communication. So firstly, we need to be aware that what needs to be corrected. And do we believe that it is to be corrected? Because I still feel large part of the population doesn't believe that anything is wrong. They see everything is fine. We live so far, we live more so. So this feeling of there is something serious which is happening is still not felt in most of us. And it is not only, the people who are not aware as far as from, all the information is concerned, but even those who are well educated, they don't see much problem, because so far we took care and hopefully we will take care. So now I would like to put some of the thoughts that we have also discussed in our earlier, interactions in different places, was looking at, for example, air. And we had a topic called care for air. And we said, okay, so what is to be done? And what Gayatri mentioned was look at sensing. So question is, if the air is going bad, where it is going bad and how does it go bad? Is it vehicles? Is it four-wheeler? Is it two-wheeler, right? Is it petrol as a fuel? Is it diesel as a fuel? Or if we look at industrial pollution, or if we look at dust, or if you look at burning of coal inside the house, or as we see crop outside. So there are multiple ways this pollution is generated, but we need to know where and how much. Because before you provide a technology solution, we must know what we call where is the source pollutant coming from. Because then only a corrective measure would make sense. So now if we go to the next level and we say, okay, if I know the source pollutant is high in vehicle. And then you say, okay, do I have solutions around vehicle? And that is how we started looking at electric vehicle. That is how we look at more fuel efficient vehicle. And that is why we said, let's go back to cycling, hopefully, some people say, and say, okay, can we make a cycle track? So we started looking at this now as the next way of working. And as we say, electric vehicle, we said, okay, we started with lead acid. Then we said, okay, can I go to lithium ion? And somebody says, go to aluminum. And somebody says, let's go to hydrogen. So, which means there is a big role of technology as we move in each of these aspects. Again, source pollutant being inside the house. So a number of people, as they said, it's very easy to find out if there is pollution inside the house because it comes from coughing, it comes from running nose, right? And when you cook inside the house with a wood burning or a coal, these are the first symptoms or indicators. And the impacts can be large, right? It goes to health, it goes to mortality rate going up. And so for all these, then somebody designed a much more efficient chula, right? Which means much more at a lower level that anybody can design, and then say make it available. So there are many initiatives around that have happened, but we'll talk more so. And we looked at water, we looked at air, and there are many more areas that one can impact. But first, by understanding or sensing where is the source coming from, and how we then alter the source for the pollution that it creates.
Very well said, Pradeep. Totally agree on these points, and also the kind of evolution that you bring in, because every technology has its own phase, and with time it keeps improving. And sometimes the cost of improvisation is just considered to be the economical cost and not the cost on the environment or the larger ecosystem. So that has to be definitely factored in. So while we are, evolving in terms of technologies, and we are doing incremental improvements, but this is to be factored in, that how it is going to impact the larger ecosystem. So Alok, and I don't know, Sudhir, how your connection is right now, but
See, I switched off my video to save the
sure.
bandwidth. If it is okay, because normally Zoom will not be permitted. I'm on hotspot. I'm very sorry for the inconvenience. I totally agree with Mr. Pradeep. Over a period of time, the technology has, for the sake of sophistication, brought the technologies, took over some of the conventional things to bring sophistication. That in turn created some kind of comfort, both for the people and also to avoid the pollution. But now the scenario is different. Now we have to find the technology to solve the existing problems. So that means whatever the existing problems what we have, first the children should understand. See, let us think, because let us not talk very high words so that these children cannot understand. Let us say each and every children has adopted his own surroundings, maybe 100 meters, something like that. And they should know how this pollution and the environment is getting affected. Maybe because of wastewater. Majority of the thing is basically because of water wastage, sewage and solid waste management. And second thing is, let's say whatever the vehicles that have SOx, COx and NOx emissions. And another thing, Shipra was very rightly mentioning, the technology should enable them to find out these things, because some of the things are not visible. Let us say NOx, XOx emissions are there, unless otherwise you have a sensor, you cannot find out. And of course, the water bodies. On the other day, we have Atal Tinkering Lab ISRO challenges, and 450 students, they have given some reports. It's amazing. They were trying to find out water bodies around them, how they are depleting over a period of time. So when the water bodies are depleting, obviously the urbanization is going on, but ultimately it has got a severe effect on the greenhouse effect. And ultimately, not only it is creating problem in your neighborhood, but it is also creating a huge problem in the glaciers melting. Ultimately, just imagine when some kind of glaciers are melted and ice is not there, how the ecological balance would be there. And second thing is your urbanization. You are creating and demolishing so many vast, let us say, ecosystem, and creating the buildings after the buildings, and creating the roads after deforestation. What is the effect of all these things on the society and your livelihood? So these are all the fundamental things probably the scientists and professors like Pradeep and Shipra, like people who can create the ecosystem, they should bring out in booklet form, and they should circulate to the students. In fact, these generation students should fight against even their own parents and their own teachers and their own, let us say, elders, not to do this thing. When child started telling, obviously the parent or brother or anybody has to listen. So of course, see, it is not possible manually to work out all these things. Artificial intelligence is one means, because there are, let us say, 1 lakh water bodies around the country. It is just not possible. Even Google also or anybody cannot make out visually. And artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning techniques should be made use of for applying these technologies to find out the problems. First is avoiding the problem. Another one is proactive approach, avoiding the problem, not to create the problem. Having created, how to resolve, how to find out the problem. Having found, how to resolve the issue. I think this technology, there are several fronts are there to identify the technologies, but basic students should learn how to avoid, so that at least we will stand here not to create further mess in the future.
Very well said. And there is a question that I see from Syed Riaz, that is, as more and more technology advances, there is huge increase in ecological imbalance. How we can advance in technology without harming ecological balance? Very well said, Syed. That is exactly what we are trying to answer here. And this panel is precisely trying to arrive at some of the intersections that can be looked at, and how collaboratively we can work, because we are having a representation from such a diverse group. We have an academic institution, we have an MNC, we have a specific focused body under the principal scientific advisor, we have ISRO, and we have a platform like India MUN, which is connecting all of them together. So that is precisely what we are all trying to solve, that how do we leverage technology without harming the ecology, instead actually helping the ecological imbalance, how to restore that. So Alok, would you want to add to this point, and the number of initiatives that Google is taking, because Google is doing significantly good amount of work in this area, and most of the digital disruptions that have emerged, mostly Google is there at the back end. So how would you like to present this?
Yeah, I can answer this in two ways. One is what my team and what my work is about, and then what Google is doing.
Sure.
Broadly, I think the first iteration of a technology is broken in many ways, but it's still useful, and that's why it's adopted. But we continue to improve and iterate and build better technology. So all of Google's data centers are fully powered by renewable energy. And by 2030, ahead of almost any country or any large organization of comparable size, we will have renewable energy powering every hour of every day, every data center. So all of your Google queries or YouTube or anything else will be completely renewable. And so that is a massive achievement, but not everybody can do this. And so we are building technology that will allow other players also to do this. And personally, just like many of the speakers mentioned earlier today, usage of machine learning and remote sensing is something that my team is focusing on. So whether it is to work on agriculture, so broadly, India is facing three critical challenges right now, two of which are climate related, which is sort of water shortage and heat waves and extreme weather, basically. And the third one is a lack of employment opportunities. And fortunately, climate and climate solutions and usage of technology is something that can actually solve all of these three things together. Building and deploying climate solutions at scale can be a great source of employment and give people jobs and opportunities. So like the first iteration of technology, which is sort of generating energy through, say, coal power plants, it's not good, but generating energy through solar and wind, when India as a country is so much blessed in solar particularly, and having cars, like vehicles, whether it is buses or personal vehicles, being powered by renewables is a great thing for a country like India.
That's very well said. And there is a question also in the chat box in the meantime, which I was looking at, that what simple practices can we follow at our home to bring a change? That's also a very good question and relevant as well. However, here the role of this panel discussion is actually to look at technologies which are at a broader level and at a global scale, what we can think of, because you're all still very young and you never know what kind of career you will get into. So while this question is relevant, so this could be the first step, but then we want you to look at this problem as a larger problem than outside your home you have to look at it. But anyway, would like to
I'd like to add on the home front.
Yes.
Because home itself consumes massive energy, and home also consumes massive water, and home also generates a lot of waste. So if you look at these three aspects, so when you say energy consumption, people have switched from CFL to LED. You try to reduce the lighting load. When you look at devices, government has come, for example, the star rating. So you look at more energy efficient devices. If you look at water, then people know how to save water, and there are filters for water and various methods to save water or conserve water, as we call. And then we look at waste, then we've always been talking about segregating waste. So these are also something which we can do at home. So it begins at home, and then we step outside. And so don't let that home stuff get out. So we talked about at a society level, or treatment plants or water treatment plants. Fundamentally, you can reuse the water that you treating the wastewater, right? It's been done in Singapore, it's done in many, many places. So you don't take water from outside to in, but you retreat it. And of course, there is a psychological issue that how you can drink the same water which you dispose through the sink and the waste. But there are many other technologies around it and happening, and where we are getting comfortable with drinking of the treated water, distilled water, as good as what comes out anyway through the RO.
I have done it myself, and it is actually, pretty portable. So
yeah, and this is what people have been doing at home. So one another thing which led to from this question was, we look at the end games. Like there is something called project report called environment impact analysis, which is done at the project level when you're doing it a large projects. But you bring it down to see what is the impact of a product or a process or a service. When you say service, a 10-minute delivery is not necessarily so environment friendly. When you look at a product, so why wait then after that it is sold in the market and then say, okay, the regulators say you can't use this, right? So you bring back using this environment and impact analysis and bring back to looking at the product, the process or the service and say, can I solve it here? And similarly, going back from large to small, going back to our home, we start small and we can all contribute.
Okay. Shipra, you want to add to that?
Yeah, thanks. I think Pradeep made a very good point. And I think, another angle I would like to bring in is, expanding your circle of influence. So it's very good to start from home, but then you also need to get into the mindset of pushing the boundaries. Okay, starting from home and then looking at your society.
Yeah.
So what can you do at societal level? Like segregation is one example that has been raised again and again. So how can you set systems within your society to ensure that the waste is segregated at the point of generation, right? Then moving out. So as you, get more and more confidence, moving out, stretching your boundaries, get, thinking at the neighborhood level, then the city level. So that's how, you will get the confidence to change the world for the better as well.
Very well said, Shipra. I'll just move on to the next question, which is from another student. Her name is Pratiksha. So thank you, Sohini, for the lovely question. Actually, as every speaker is saying, that you have to push the boundaries and move, start from home, but start moving outer and outer as you grow. So the next question is from Pratiksha. She's asking, there are so many developments happening in terms of technology, yes, but collaboration and interaction between various industries of different sectors becomes important to figure out solutions. Absolutely right. So how is this being done, or how can it be achieved? And if it is already happening, what changes has it brought about? Very good question. In fact, I would like to start with one pointer here, and then we'll pass it on to the esteemed speakers. So the similar question was posed to the IIM Bangalore students, and that was a competition that we had organized. The solution that they came up with was that of a matrimony site kind of model. The seekers and providers have to be matched. So matchmaking has to be done somewhere. So they did that for the waste industry. So, for example, waste of the steel plant can be a raw product for the cement plant. So the fly ash that's a waste for them, that can be used as a raw product for the cement industry. So that is how there is a entire ecosystem. In fact, nature works exactly like this, that the waste of one species becomes the food for the other species. So similarly, there are portals or exchange portals that can be created. And there are other ways also, but this is just one example that I wanted to start off with. And over to you all to build on this lovely point.
Thanks, Gayatri. I think I would like to go first because this is the whole concept of Drive. So as you know, very rightly identified by the students themselves, right? So we require an ecosystem. In order to get that cross-industry participation into this. And this is the whole concept of a Drive, that in a cluster, you don't just have, organizations that are good at research like IIT Delhi or AIIMS or IIIT, right? You also have participants that are going to take that technology and scale it up, like corporates, ONGC, for example, right? So PSUs and, large corporates. Then you have MSMEs in between, who are going to act as brokers, right? Or, add to that supply chain. So waste that is, generated, right? How does that get processed to a point where it is consumable by, the wider and larger corporates, right? You have startups in the mix, right? So some technology that get developed in the lab, for example, e-vehicles, right? Or, technology related to sensors. So how does that get taken to the market? Because not everything can be commercialized by a corporate. So you need multiple channels to take that technology from lab to market, and then bringing all those people together. There is also an angle of relationship management there, right? So when we, from the student's point of view, so where technology is central, obviously, within that context in which the problem they are trying to solve. They also need to, think in terms of social and emotional skills, which need to be developed so that they're able to work with a variety of people and take them together to work towards a common cause.
Very well, I totally agree with you. So I would request Sudhir, if you can also add to this point, since you've been very quiet, since we can't see you as well. Are you able to hear us?
And I'd like to add to the point.
Sure, please. Yeah.
So the whole idea is making any initiative, possible by every individual. So what we say, can we get power to the individual? Because we saw a lot of initiatives being done at a very small level, but they don't grow beyond. So which means somebody starts, finding a solution for waste handling or composting. But is it going to remain as a hobby, or can it grow? So within our Alum Association, we have something called Social Entrepreneurs and Enterprise as a platform. And within that platform, when we create these meetings or interactions, and which is the question about how do you get that? So in every topic, we say we should have one practitioner. This is a gray-haired, a person who probably has seen and can do. You get an academician who is into deep research and will bring out some of the core things which have not seen the light of the day in the world. You bring the technology experts or industry side who will really take it, sometimes fund it, sometimes support it. And then you bring the startups. So startup suddenly becomes powerful because they get connected to the industry, to academia, to the practitioner. Practitioner brings the wisdom, and then the other people are helping this collaboration succeed. And we did it for some of the initiatives. And there is a program, I don't remember full name, it's called the Imprint, where you get a funding from a company, you get participation from the institute, you get the startup in, and startup can be a student, and then of course you can get your professor and all. So you bring these 2 or 4 people together and make a project happen, and they have been succeeding in different areas. So it's not limited to just a plastic handling or something like that. Any area one can get into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me
So,
add,
yeah,
a
look.
thing here. So a couple of points. Technology alone is not always the solution. You need 3 pillars for climate solutions to succeed. First is policy, second is finance, and third is technology. And climate change is making climate solutions a very, very urgent topic that all of us need to build on. And it's all about speed and scale at this point. So technologies that are mature need to be more broadly adopted. And generally what that means is that we should stop seeing this as a philanthropic effort that people will do as charity. It has to be a genuine business model through which people can succeed and can take it up as their primary means of making livelihood. And when that happens, you can see significant adoption. So you can see how fast people have adopted to online payment transactions when there was demonetization or other similar things. And so we need to create similar situations without creating a lot of hardship, like in a much more planned manner, where people are able to transition to climate solutions and give people opportunities to build climate solutions as well. So all these 3 things have to go hand in hand, and everything that both Pradeep and Shipra said was 100% correct, where we need to build collaborations that are multidisciplinary and sort of bring wisdom of ages along with academic partnerships, research, and with technological deployment.
Okay, that's really good. And
To add a couple of points,
yes,
Gayatri, see all these that when it comes the collaboration, ISRO and IIT had a very great collaboration even for aerosol measurement. We have established several thousands of weather stations across the country for climatical. First is finding out what is the problem going on. Okay, and after that, let us say finding the solutions to rectify it. And there is a huge collaboration is going on amongst the academic institutions and labs, especially including ISRO, to establish this kind of connectivity to identify the problems and figuring it out what exactly going on. I think this is one move, as Alok was telling. The policy also matters. The finance is also another very important thing. The responsibility should be to the person who creates the problem. Let us say if an industry is creating the problem or creating there is an outcome is likely to create some kind of nuisance, it should be a part and parcel of that particular licensing policy to get it rectified. I think such kind of things, if you embed as a part of the policy, probably I think years to come, to some extent, cut this particular pollution.
No, very well said. And this point is actually very important, and it has been widely realized now, and not just in the country, within the country, but also across countries. One country could be good with, say, the solar endowment that the nature has given it, and India is one such country. We have tremendous solar power that we can harness. However, there could be a country which is good with water. So, there has been so the collaboration is the key to sustainability. That is said without any doubt. And here, when we're talking about technology transfer from countries to different countries, whereas from one market to the other market, that also is an amazing thing to be looked at. And I think organizations like Drive and IIT Kanpur and even Google should be looking at this. And ISRO, I know that you have a more specific agenda. However, the organizations which are looking at a mass consumer level, they can look at these interventions and cross collaborations across sectors and countries. So great.
Yes.
There are 1 or 2 more questions here. May I take them? So somebody is asking, development in technology so far has affected the environment by its side effects, example, radiations, etc. What are the chances that future development in technology will not have a different side effect on the environment? The chances are up to you. So there are a lot of the research and development is going on. So any thoughts from any of you on this aspect? Sudhir, would you like to add to this?
Any technology that we develop, definitely pros and cons will be seen by the scientists. Incidentally, if the technology is predominantly helping the mass kind with a little bit of radiation, or I don't think any such kind of things are now entertained in any technology which are related to the, let us say, now sophisticated technologies available. Even I was mentioning about the measurement of, let us say, air pollution, water pollution, aerosol measurement, such kind of things. I don't think radiation is a problem ever seen. Okay, even if it is some kind of thing is there, that will not harm definitely the humankind, because lot of licenses, lot of approvals will be there, which will be taken care. All these aspects will be taken care by the several agencies while qualifying the system.
Okay. Would love to really, go on with this discussion. It's so engaging, and probably we should do a follow-up on this, or probably create a series for students so that their questions and doubts around technology can be answered. And we can facilitate that through India MUN. However, the current slot is limited, and we have the other set of students already waiting to be, let into the other program. So I'll have to really, call it off. And thank you so much for such an engaged participation, students. And thank you so much to the esteemed panelists and speakers here. Your knowledge and your insights were really amazing. And I think everyone enjoyed the session a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.